So I had a boss, and he told me, he said, always say yes. He's like you got to say yes, and you got to do stuff that's out of your comfort zone. And he goes, you might hate it, you might like it, but always say yes. And I mean, granted, you don't always say yes to everything, but that's the one thing that like I took away from that guy is, and just saying yes has opened up so many doors to so many cool things. You know, when somebody asks you something, just say yes.
Welcome to another episode of the Robert Patton Global Podcast. I'm here today with Jason McDonald, the Gator wrestler. You've been on Inside Edition, I believe. Thank you for joining me today.
You bet. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we've been communicating back and forth online through like Instagram and YouTube, and really appreciate your support of our page. And then I started seeing you doing your thing. And so we thought it'd be a good way to connect. And do you mind if we watch one of your videos? And
yeah, no, that'd be great.
But, and then we'll get it going from there. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. And this will all be kind of edited, but sure. Here we go. This is pretty cool. And audio.
Man dressed as a...
Let's try that again. There we go.
Watch as this man dressed as a superhero catches an alligator blindfolded.
What could go wrong?
Jason McDonald.
You've probably seen this 1,000 times.
I've seen a lot of my videos a lot, yeah.
Out of the water at Colorado Gator Farm. The 36-year-old daredevil braved the pond, which holds between 50 and 60 alligators.
Whoa.
Ninja catcher. You can't feel them, you barely touch them.
Whoa.
McDonald performs health checks on the animals and says the gators usually can't tell who or what is touching them because there are so many.
Oh my God, that's crazy. I specifically didn't watch this so that I could watch it with you.
McDonald's been wrestling gators for 12 years.
Oh my God.
He's been bitten once.
One time. I'm a little chunkier than Ryan Reynolds in that daredevil.
You look like a really good friend of mine from the Army.
Oh, yeah?
For InsideEdition.com, I'm Kelly Nealon.
Nice. That's kind of a big deal. And, you know, you have a bunch of these other viral videos that we don't necessarily need to watch, but if you go to Gator Wrestler 303, it looks like you got a few of them on there.
Yeah.
Story Trender. I mean, so let me unshare this. How do you start wrestling gators? I'm sorry, that's probably cliche.
No. So I originally I was always like, when I was a kid, my mom would like tease us with like snakes and stuff. So I was terrified of reptiles for a long time. And, you know, like she'd throw gardener stick, and which is horrible, you know, like you're supposed to like, you know, build trust with people, and she would like, thought it was funny to tease us. So I was terrified like of snakes and all that. So then I, at one point I saw like Dwarf Cayman at the reptile store. And I was like, oh, I think I'd like to get one of those. But I knew I'm from the area that the Southern Colorado, Alamosa, where the Gator Farm's from. So I'm from down there, and I knew they had the class. So I was like, I'm gonna go take this class and learn how to handle them. And then once I started taking the class, I was like, I would much rather play with a 10-foot alligator than own a little baby one. So.
Wow, you went to a school to learn how to handle alligators.
Basically.
I mean, a class.
Yep.
It was one class.
No, I mean, I've done it like hundreds of times. No, so yeah, so like what it used to be was $50 for the class, and then every time you did it again, it was only $25. The prices now have went up to $100 to do the class just because it's so time consuming. But I mean, I've caught thousands of alligators. But yeah, before I started doing it like hardcore, I mean, I would go every other weekend. I'd go down to Alamosa and catch gators just because I love doing it so much.
And you got bit once.
One time in 20 years, yep. And it was because I actually put my hand in the alligator's mouth for a trick. And I breathed too hard in its mouth, and their mouth is so sensitive that the breath caused it to clamp down on my hand.
How did that feel?
It was extraordinary. Like 13 minutes. I was stuck in its mouth for 13 minutes before we could pry it. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like it was a little gator, too. It was a like 7 to 8 foot alligator. And I mean, luckily enough, when it started to roll, it tried to roll to pull my hand off. It had 3 fingers in its mouth, and it tried to roll and pull my hand off. And I grabbed its face, and I yelled for my wife to come jump on its back to help hold it down. And yeah, so it's funny. She actually ruined a phone because she didn't pull it out of her pocket. She just came and jumped. I mean, she's diehard. You know, who else would go jump in a gator pond to help? You know, keep
that as a keeper. Yeah, that's.
So we tried using wood sticks and stuff because we didn't want to hurt the alligator. People were like, why didn't you just poke it in the eye or do this, like all this terrible stuff? And it's like, I mean, I was a stupid one to put my hand in its mouth, you know, and I got bit. So there's no reason to hurt this alligator. So we were trying to do it as gently as we could. And it just kept snapping sticks and like it just kept digging. Like it hurt so bad. And then finally we had to get a piece of metal rebar to pry its mouth open and get my hand out.
Like a crowbar? No, rebar.
Yeah, basically like a giant fence post that we had. Yeah.
And where were you when that happened?
I was down in I was in Colorado. I was actually I was doing some photography for like a company had sent me some stuff. And they said we would take a couple cool pictures. So I was like, all right, I'm going to do this. And I got lucky because I only had the tip of my hand inside of its mouth. I was going to do my whole forearm in its mouth, and that would have been an awful day for me. But I got lucky.
Yeah, I remember the rolling thing from a movie. Like they roll and they take you under the water, and then they eat you later when you're tenderized or something. I've
had 2 really good friends in Florida that almost lost limbs just from alligators like biting hold and like, you know, doing that death roll. That's what it's called when they roll. It's a death roll. It is horrific.
Wow. I don't know if there's like footage of that underwater. I imagine there's probably something somewhere. Nature is metal.
Yeah.
Something.
They go so fast too. Like that's the thing. Like when they start spinning, if they're in deep enough water, they spin so fast. And then luckily enough, when I got bit by this one, we were on the land, like right on the edge of the water. So otherwise, and like I said, I had all my weight on him. I was in a good spot. Otherwise, it would have been really bad.
Okay. Wow. Well, I'm glad that didn't end how it could have.
Yeah, me too.
So, I mean, you were telling me earlier, like you made these viral videos, and you were able to quit your job so that you can like do what you love.
Sure.
And so the viral videos are probably like you wrestling gators, right?
Mostly, yeah. So my very first video that went viral was me throwing my son in the air, and I had a GoPro on my head, and then I took the GoPro off and I put it on his chest. He was like 2 years old at the time, and it was just us throwing it, and a company bought that video. They said, we want to license that video, and I had made like 300 YouTube videos at that point, and then these companies were like, oh, we're going through your videos now. And no one had watched them hardly. And then these companies started going through and they're like, oh, we like these videos from in the past. And then other companies would message me, hey, can you film this? You know, we really like to get this kind of footage. So I started doing that, and like it opened up a whole bunch of doors.
Wow. Because everyone, you know, growing up in this era wants to be a YouTube influencer, make a viral video and be famous or whatever.
Sure.
You know, and so how did you kind of just said it, but like, what was your thinking behind starting the YouTube videos and all that?
So, I mean, like I said, I really love the alligators, and like, I wanted to be able to put it out there and remember, because I remember like before we had like the GoPros and stuff, like, I've been doing it for so long that like, like I said, we had like the old clunky cameras, and TV shows would come out and record us with their big cameras. And just like the cool memories we had back then, and like every year, like something changes at the farm and you can't do this. And we used to have a whole bunch of like 10 and 11 foot alligators. Well, they started fighting each other, and some of them started killing each other. So now we have all of our really big alligators separated off into their own ponds. But like I said, I want to be able to remember all that stuff. And so like when I got the ability to do the GoPro, you know, like I just started recording everything. But everybody wants to be a superstar, but they don't want to put in like all the hours that it takes to make the videos and the footage to start out with.
Yeah, you just said you made 300 videos before your first one. You know, that's some dedication, right? And so that's kind of why I do this, is to be able to reflect on later in life, you know. And I also like the idea of practicing conversations, meeting new people. We've been able to like communicate via text, but never actually spoke.
Sure.
And it gives it's like not a date, but kind of like a first date. You get to know somebody.
Yeah.
And you're doing your thing. We're all trying to do our thing. And I like the ability to connect and turn off the phones and just focus in on a good old-fashioned conversation. Not to mention my dad used to listen to talk radio constantly when I was riding with him in the car. And so I was always very into talk radio. And so now it's just our version of talk radio.
Absolutely. I drive a lot for work when I have downtime. I drive, like I'm getting ready to do a 24-hour drive from northern Wisconsin all the way down to Miami, and 100% I listen to talk radio and podcasts, because music is great, but like you can only hear the same song over and over so much.
I know my ratio from music to podcast. I mean, I love music, but it's like 90-10 or something towards podcasts, because there's so much good shit out there and there's always something new happening, and you always want to like be in the conversation, so to speak, listening to the latest political scandal or maybe the latest UFC, like with Sean Strickland.
Yeah.
He's making waves, saying wild shit.
I like to always try to get smarter too. That's why I like to listen to stuff that makes me smarter. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the one thing about, like, especially with some of the music nowadays, I feel like that absolutely makes me dumber, you know? So like I try to always better myself. So like, it's important to me to do that.
Oh, I like that. Actually, I'm always I'm a self-help kind of guru type person. I read the self-help books. I listen to the motivational speakers, and even Andrew Tate. If you listen to his motivational shit, he's locked into the understanding of the matrix and how the mind works with the universe, and whether it's all bullshit or not. It kind of worked for me. I started doing these things that I read in these books, Think and Grow Rich, for example, by Napoleon Hill. Highly recommend it. Okay. It talks about manifesting shit and how it starts with an idea, but you can't just sit there and meditate and think and imagine something. You got to imagine it, feel it, but then you got to go do the work, and then the universe will kind of like work in a dance with you. And I don't know if it's all bullshit, but I did it, and now I have this company. We just became the official underwear sponsor of the UFC, and I'm super fucking pumped about it. And Is it magic? Is it just a coincidence? I don't know.
So I had a boss, and he told me, he said, always say yes. He's like, you got to say yes, and you got to do stuff that's out of your comfort zone. And he goes, you might hate it, you might like it, but always say yes. And I mean, granted, you don't always say yes to everything, but that's the one thing that I took away from that guy is, and just saying yes has opened up so many doors to so many cool things. When somebody asks you something, just say yes.
Yeah, Jim Carrey, yes man. It's his life got considerably better as he was saying yes to these opportunities. Because if you say no, I mean, who are you saying no to? This world is so trippy. You don't know if everything is God and this is all just a test, or are we just meaningless beings on spinning around the sun? Like, what is the meaning of all of this? And it is kind of like what you make of it. And the book Think and Grow Rich talks about these 500 most successful people at the time. It's like Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, well, there was a bunch of other ones, some presidents and stuff. Anyways, and he condensed all of their philosophies on how they became successful and like put it into a book. And there's like 17 principles, and if you follow them, you'll be successful. But I don't know. I did it, and it seems to be working. But the yes thing tends to help, because if you're trying to do something, and then, like, for instance, the UFC reached out to us, is a lot of money, very scary. And I was like on the verge of saying no. It was so much money that I was like, I don't know if this is the right move. And we did it. I was like, fuck it. I said yes.
Sure.
And I didn't, like, right away, we didn't see a whole lot of traction, but after like within like a month and then 60 days, we start seeing like some growth. And it's only been like 90 days or something. And we went ahead and signed for the year. And that was even a much larger sum of money that kept me up at night thinking about it. But when I finally said yes, I slept like a baby. It was very strange. But
do you believe in like karma? Like I'm big time into karma, and like if you put out good, like good comes back to you. So like I'm so into karma and doing good for others, and I feel like it's absolutely come back to me.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And if you think negatively, you're going to get negative shit. If you put out negative, you're going to get negative. You put out positive, you're going to get positive. So 100% believe in that and try to live my life in that way. This is cool. Yeah, I'm you're you know, like it's weird to I talk to a lot of people, and sometimes I have met a few successful people who kind of don't think like this, only a few, and they're actually kind of negative. I hate to call people out. This lady is fighting in the UFC this weekend.
Okay.
And I interviewed her, and she was just kind of like, just kind of show up and do, kind of try a little bit, but don't try too hard. And she's fighting for the belt tomorrow night. I won't say her name, but she's cool actually. It was just it's like she wasn't into like the metaphysical or karma and stuff. She was just like, just try, and it seems to work out. But I was going to ask you something to like a kind of semi segue. I'm like a huge UFC fan, super obviously, and you're into the BKFC
correct
thing genre, and so like if you could sell the people on why BKFC is better, if you think it is, or why they should pay attention to it more.
Originally I was a UFC fan. Like I went to UFC 1. Like I thought it like I mean I was a kid when it came out. Like I thought it was fantastic. The one thing that I like about BKFC over UFC is it's way more action packed. And you know what? There's some fantastic UFC fights, but there's also a lot of snooze fights where you got where two guys are just stalemating each other basically.
Yes.
And you don't see that in BKFC. I mean, I can only remember a handful of fights that were kind of snooze fest. Otherwise, you usually got two dudes who are just slugging it out. It's shorter rounds. And it's a 1 minute rest time, so they get more time to rest. And like I said, you get these guys giving it all. And like I said, I plan on watching the Strickland Duplessis fight. I mean, it's going to be great. But for the value too, like BKFC for their app is $8 a month, and you get all their content. Minus they have a couple pay-per-views a year, but those aren't included. For $8 a month, and you get all the access to all their stuff. It's the best value in combat sports at the moment.
Nice, that works. Okay, that's very reasonable. I did not know about the $8 app option. And do they do monthly events and only a few like major pay-per-views, or?
So as of right now, I think Dave Feldman said he's looking at doing 60. I know in January there's only one event, but it looks like I believe there's going to be 3 events in February. And yeah, so for that one price, you get all those. I think he said he was going to try to do no more than 2 to 3 pay-per-views a year. Last year they did 2. And that was the first 2 ever. So we'll see what it's like going forward. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, there's at least 2. There's been 4 in some months. So I mean, like I said, it's $2 at an event basically at that point. So like you're not going to get a better deal.
We got presented Mike Perry to sponsor him when he was fighting Luke Rockhold last year. And I passed, and I was like, "Oh, that would have been a good one."
I
should have said yes. That's fucking hilarious. Damn it. Well, I know, and it's so we get if I said yes to everything, though, we are constantly getting hit up for sponsor this fighter and this fighter and this fighter, and I don't know. We say yes to as much as we can, and I say yes to a lot, honestly, and that's what has gotten us this far with promoting. I don't know if you know who Shane Gillis is.
Sure.
We've been working with him for a few years, and but now he just blew up. He just went to another agency.
Okay.
And they want 5 times as much money as I was paying him last year. Yeah. And I'm not saying yes to that.
You know, it's so crazy too. Is like you got these people who, like, prior to his like huge success, you were with him, and then they get super successful, and then they forget you. But it's one of those things, like, if you had forgotten them, they'd be like, oh, you know, like, I feel like you're kind of in a no-win situation. And I see the same sort of thing with BKFC. Like, you got these guys who are just starting out, and these people support them, and then they start making a name for themselves, and then they kind of either, you know, like, they try to part ways, and it's unfortunate. And I realize you have to always be bettering yourself, but like, I wish there was a happy medium where you could still support the people who helped get you there.
I think that would be nice. I'm not I'm not going to hold my breath, but I'm also not giving up hope with Shane. I'm going to maybe reach out to him personally. He wears Sheath. I've seen him. I mean, we pay a lot of people to, you know, be sponsored by us, and I'll see them in a video and they're not wearing it. And I'm like, okay, did they really like it or whatever? But he's always wearing it. And I've heard him talk about it on Rogan. And so he's like actual kind of consumer of the product. So we'll see if we can do something else down the road. But I really love his comedy. I don't know if you saw his last special.
No, he's really funny. Yeah. I like him.
He is hilarious. Okay. So do you know who Mr. Beast is?
Probably. I do. My son loves him. We actually filmed some stuff for Mr. Beast at one point. He said, you know, he liked it, but nothing came of it. But my son was catching alligators wearing a Mr. Beast t-shirt, and I think he was like 6 or 7 at the time. And they're like, we love it, but nothing came of it. So
you let your son catch alligators?
My son's been catching alligators since he was 2 years old. Like, I figure if he's going to be around alligators, he needs to know how to, like, protect himself. And so, I mean, I'm not letting him catch big ones, but yeah, he can catch like a 3-foot alligator. He's 10 now. He could absolutely catch a 3 or 4 foot alligator, no problem by himself.
Yeah. And you were saying, like, they don't know what's touching them because there's so many alligators in that one video. Yeah. So yeah. Can you explain kind of the psychology of what it takes to catch an alligator or whatever?
Right. I'll just tell you, like, how we do our class. So when we start our class, we start you out in a little circular pond with a bunch of gators that range from a foot to like 3 foot. Nothing big. Those we teach you how to catch. How you catch an alligator on land is completely different than how you catch one in water. So after you get proficient at that, which usually only takes a couple catches, you know, like a small gator like that's no big deal. Like, you know, like it's easy. So then we move you up to the gators that are like 3 to 6 foot in length. And generally speaking, what you do with those is you go in the water. They're in like. So all of our alligators are separated by pen because they will eat each other when they get to a certain height or length. So they all have to be kind of separated. And just keeping them in smaller pens like that, we're able to pay attention to see if any of them get sick or hurt or anything. That way we can better health check them. That's the only reason we actually catch all the alligators is for health checks. Anytime you have more than one in a pond, they tend to bite and fight each other. So anyway, after we teach you how to catch the 3 to 6 footer, you go in the water, grab them by the tail, drag them up on land, and jump and safely jump on their back and secure them. And like I said, we do the health check and everything. And then after that, we take you in the big pond, and we got everything from like 6 to 8 footers up to 11 footer in there, and how you catch a gator in like the deep water. So there is a whole bunch of them usually in the pond, and they'll bump into each other. So as long as you're like slow and kind of calculated with your moves, you can get away with touching them. And as long as you don't, you know, poke them hard or anything, generally speaking, they won't turn and try to bite you. I mean, I've seen it happen before where they have tried to turn and bite people, but
yeah.
Anyway, so like
they do that thing where they like just reach around and snap or whatever.
Yeah, so what they do is they try to use their tail to push whatever's by their tail to their mouth. So that, you know, they make so they're swapping you with their tail. Everybody always says, like, aren't you afraid of getting hit by the tail? It's like, I'd rather get hit by the tail than the bite again. You know what I mean? So like they'll hit you with the tail and try to drive you towards the mouth. But once you get out there, like we call it ninja catching them. You try to barely touch them, and you can get on their back and put a rope around them, and then we drag them up. And like in that one video, you saw the yellow mark on its neck. It was every year we do a thing called Gator Fest, and we go out there and we catch every big alligator that we can, and we give them a medical check. They're all microchipped, and so we check their microchip. We measure them to see if they've grown or any new injuries or anything. So like I said, we try to get at least one medical check a year on all the alligators, and it had the yellow mark because we had caught it earlier.
Ah, the one that was in Inside Edition.
Correct.
Yeah. did they reach out to you, or how does that happen?
So that was another one of those videos that I filmed, and a company was like, hey, superheroes are going really big. So, we did Superman, we did all sorts of superhero stuff. And and then Inside Edition saw that clip and they wanted it. But I've been fortunate enough. I've done shows on Discovery Channel, Animal Planet, Travel, I've 9 News up in Denver. I've done a whole bunch of stuff, luckily.
Yeah, I'm going to be going on Fox 21 local living or whatever on the 31st. They contacted me. Maybe they heard about the UFC thing. I have been on a few times in the past. Those morning shows sometimes, no offense, they're like nobody's watching them, but it's still good practice and fun, and I appreciate the interest. But do you have a farm with alligators?
So I don't have the farm. I work there. So my buddy, the Youngs, they own the Gator farm. So originally started out as a fish farm. It started out as a catfish farm originally, and back in the 70s. And they have geothermal wells there, so it's hot water year round. The water comes out of the ground at 90 in the upper 90s. And so they switched over to tilapia, and they are big time about going green. So they brought in the alligators. They brought in 50 little alligators to eat all the fish guts and all the dead fish. Back in, I think it was 87. And then people heard about the alligators. And so people started coming for the alligators. And then it turned into a reptile rescue. And they still do fish farming there, but the alligators are the big hit.
And these are the guys in Alamosa?
Yeah, it's just north of Alamosa and Mosca. Yep, right by the sand dunes.
And you were living there when you grew up or whatever, but now you live in Wisconsin?
Correct. So I would actually live in Denver, and I would drive down on the weekends to go 4-hour trip down. I would go wake up 3 a.m, drive down, go play with alligators, and then drive back on the weekend. I just loved it so much. And so when I was fortunate enough and I had videos start going viral, the Gator farm. So I was a volunteer for a long time, and then the Gator farm, when I had all the videos go viral, they're like, look, we're getting a lot of publicity, so we're going to create a social media position we want you to be at. So I'm luckily enough, I still run the social media for them up here in Wisconsin, but I can travel, the Gators can't. So and I love the Wisconsin area now. So
okay. And you said you're driving to Miami. You're not taking alligators to Miami?
No, I'm going down. So one of my sponsors, I don't know
if you said Miami. You said Florida, I think.
Yeah. No, it was Miami. Yeah.
Okay.
No, so one of my sponsors, he sells kilts. So if you see me in the videos, I'm always wearing a kilt because there's thousands of people out there to catch alligators. I'm the only dude in a kilt that wears. And it's so weird how if you tell somebody, oh, I saw this guy catch an alligator, but if you say I saw this guy in a kilt catch an alligator, people know it's me right away. So it was a branding imaging thing. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
So we're going down. He's got a festival we're taking some kilts to, and then I'm actually going to the BKFC event that's going to be down in Miami. But while we're down there, we're actually going to go to a couple zoos and do some stuff with some alligators down there too.
For filming and stuff, or just for fun? Just for fun,
and I'll film, of course, a little bit, because you never know. It's that's the one thing about viral videos: you always got to be filming, because you never know what you're gonna miss. And there's been so many clips where, luckily enough, you're filming. And the thing about viral videos is you always film too long, because so many people are like, oh, I stopped it because I didn't want to waste it, but you can always cut down video footage. You can't add to it.
We're going to this wrestling tournament tomorrow. It's high school wrestling, but they're bringing in an Olympic gold medalist, Adeline Gray, and then Basil Hafez, who we work with a lot in the UFC. He's a friend of mine. He's going to show up and do meet and greet with some of the fans there. And I'm like, we do a lot of cool stuff. And if I had a film crew with me constantly, that would be nice. How do you film things personally? Do you have
my wife films everything for me. Okay. And so when we go to the BKFC thing, she's not going to be there. She's going to be up here with my son. So my buddy, I told him, I was like, well, I'll take you to go do a bunch of cool shit, but you got to film for me. You know what I mean? So it's, in Texas, he filmed, we went and played with camels and zebras and all sorts of cool stuff. And and I did a welfare check on some alligators out there for a buddy who's got some. And I told him, you get to pet these animals and play with them, but I just need you to film everything. So.
Oh man, it was crossing my mind, the idea of you teaching me to catch an alligator and filming that and what that would look like.
I would love to. It's funny. So a mutual friend of ours, Chris Camozzi, is like, hey, what if we got 4 or 5 BKFC, UFC guys, and we went down and caught some of the alligators? And I was like, I think it'd be fantastic. And I mean, like I said, it's generally safe. Like, I've only had one student get bit, and that's because the person wasn't paying attention. So I've been bit one time in 20 years. If you listen to me, like, for the most part, you're pretty safe.
What happened to the person that got bit?
If you're not paying attention, like, I mean, it's one of those things, like, if you have a 6-foot alligator in your hands and you're like looking around behind you and trying to figure out, like, you need to worry about the thing that's at the end of your hands. So it was one of those instances.
You know, be in the moment, be present, don't getting distracted when you're catching alligators. That makes perfect sense. Yeah. I would think that would be self-explanatory. Potentially.
Well, when you have like 50 alligators in a pond, sometimes you're like, oh, is there a gator behind me? But that's what I'm there. I'm the instructor. So I'm there to keep you safe behind you. Like I said, I just need you to focus on the bitey thing at the end of your hand. So
the bitey thing. Oh, that's funny. But so do you practice martial arts? Because you wrestle a lot of alligators.
So when I was growing up, I did taekwondo, and I did wrestling, and I did Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I did MMA for a while. I actually fought on like a Ring of Fire card. I had my shoulder blown out, and that was the end of my combat career.
Okay, yeah, it's fun though. I imagine exciting.
Yeah, it was one of those things. Like, I mean, I loved the fighting and stuff. Like, I really like coaching. I really like watching, and then like. I was able to focus all that energy that I had for the MMA and the wrestling, and I turned that towards animals, and I don't regret it.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to be in the NBA when I was growing up. I did not do any martial arts, and I wish I would have, but the effort I did dedicate towards basketball was just like the work ethic. I had to try extra hard because I'm 5'8" and 150 approximately, and so very average, and so I had to really try a lot harder than everyone else just to kind of keep up. And when I got injuries as I was growing up, ankles, and then it's like, oh, did I waste all that time? But I really developed a strong work ethic, and I applied that in my jobs and then in the Army and now into this. And when I was 20, I started training jiu-jitsu with a friend of mine, and I'm 45, and I've been doing it ever since, on and off. I don't have a belt and I just learned this, which I should tell people, because I was always a no-gi practitioner.
Yeah.
And so I go to these classes with a gi, and I'm a white belt, and I'm kind of like, this isn't really, I feel like I should at least be a blue belt, but they don't know. And then I ended up getting hurt last year rolling with a white belt. He was like 6'6" and like a spaz, and I was passing his guard, and he like spazzed out, but it wasn't necessarily his fault. I should not have gotten injured, but my leg was transitioning over his torso, and when he popped up, and my knee popped, and I finished the roll and everything because I'm a man, and I'm like, oh, I'm not hurt. And then I went to the next partner, and we started rolling, and I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. I can't put any pressure on it. I limped out of there and haven't been able to go back. But I have been training again since then. But then I broke my arm. My arm is actually, I broke my radial head on my elbow by, if you like fall and try to brace yourself.
Sure.
And the bone on bone, like it just cracked like a dime sized portion off of the radial head, and it's still kind of like broken, but I've been rolling, and I just kind of favor it. Do you still do anything? Or
I wrestled with my son. So it's one of those things, like when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, I could go catch like 50 alligators and I'd feel fine. Like I'm at the point now where I catch like 10 alligators and I'm dying. You know what I mean? Like I just hit 43, and like like your legs are sore, your shoulders sore, like your back. So it's so funny, like as we age, like we require, like we ask these younger people, hey, why don't you come help move this guy? I'll 100%. Take a picture of you. Yeah, it looked really cool, and it's really just I don't want to do it. So
yeah, I'm 45 now, and I like to have helpers because I know what needs to be done, but I get kind of tired, I guess, and I have a lot of stuff to do, and so it's hard, like running this company there's a lot of moving pieces, and we are a small company, relatively small for how, I don't know, like how it appears on the outside. We're the official underwear sponsor of the UFC, but we're actually there's 7 of us, and I'm just many hats. We all do a lot of different jobs within the company, and we don't have a headquarters. We all pretty much work remotely. I mean, I have this warehouse is kind of like our headquarters, but we're all over the United States, and we all meet on Discord each week or a few times a week and have meetings and stuff. But then it's a pretty chill for my team, because they can work from home. They only have to work for 2 or 3 hours a day, or as needed. Shit hits the fan for sometimes, and then we all hands on deck type thing. What do you? Your job is social media, it seems like.
Right. So I do the social media. I also help my buddy. Like I said, he's got a warehouse. I help him with some stuff. I do some shipping and receiving.
Me too, actually.
Yeah. So he, during COVID, he got ridiculously sick. And so, I thought there was a good chance that he was going to pass away. And luckily enough, he didn't. But, he's in his upper 60s, or I say upper, he's 63, not upper 60s. He's killing it. Anyway, so I help him. Today we were getting everything ready. We moved trailers around. We changed the oil in the trucks. And I mean, it's just a lot of little stuff. So I have free time, so I go help him. So
yeah, there's always shit to be done. And you're the young one in that scenario.
Yeah, it's funny. So he likes to say, he goes, I made a friend who has a strong back and a weak mind. He's like, I can talk you into doing anything. You're a Gator wrestler, So yeah, we do that. And like I said, I mean, I'm answering emails and posting stuff for the Gator Farm while I do it. And then I have my own YouTube that I'm doing, and still, I mean, luckily enough, with the social media, it kind of makes it flexible to do a whole bunch.
Yeah. And I was saying, everybody wants to be that. I think that's the number one answer for kids 10 to 14 is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And it's an influencer.
So my son, like I said, has been catching gators since he was 2. He's done several TV shows also. And it's so funny because he's every day, I don't want to go to school. I just want to do YouTube. And I'm like, you have to go to school. But I mean, he's been successful and he's been on TV. So he's like, oh, well, I just want to do that. And I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen. You got to get the education first, at least the high school education,
Yeah, and he could do it after school or whatever,
100%,
maybe. Yeah. So but you're doing all that, and then you started a podcast, the BKFC Reddit podcast.
Yeah, so I watched the BKFC. I love it, and so I joined the Reddit, and I mean, it's just so YouTube's great but I mean the YouTube commenters, they can absolutely get on you, and especially somebody who me who does the stuff with the alligators. I get video people all the time. Oh, I hope you died. Just terrible. They say absolutely horrible things to me. So I joined the Reddit, and I enjoy the commenters and stuff. And so we would get some of the fighters to come in and do AMAs, but a bunch of the fighters were like, look. I don't want to come on here and write, answers to people. Can't we just do an interview? And so it was one of those things. There was kind of missing that niche. A lot of the podcasts, they want to talk to fighters. I talk to fighters, I talk to coaches, I talk to sponsors. It's one of those things. There's so many moving parts with a company like that, and we're getting in basically ground level. I mean, they're only a couple years old. And to be able to say that I'm in at the ground level is just fantastic. And yeah, I mean, this podcast thing has taken off, and I mean, it's crazy. I actually have fighters reaching out to me now, which is, how I know I'm starting to make it. So.
Love it. Yeah. Can you talk about anybody in particular, or that's
no? So yeah, somebody like John Dodson. He said, hey, he just did an MMA fight, and so I said, hey, good luck over there. And he goes, hey, when I come back, let's do a podcast about that. And Mark Hunt, they're talking about Mark Hunt joining the BKFC, so I'm supposed to talk to him, and several guys like that. Just like I said, we're starting out. I think I've maybe done 15 to 20 of them. But like I said, in the beginning, I was begging fighters to come on, and now they're coming. And especially the management's coming out to me. Some people in BKFC are like, hey, will you interview this guy? So it's going really well.
Nice. Yeah, I just got hit up for Brandon Royval, which he'll be coming next Sunday. not in 2 days, but the following Sunday. We're going to do a photo shoot, and he did just fight for the title and
Sure.
came up short, but it wasn't like a domination.
No, I watched that fight. It was a weird fight too. Like I feel like he probably thinks that he could have probably done a little more.
Exactly. Yeah, I felt like he didn't put his foot on the gas as much as he could have.
Sure.
Yeah, that's tough when you like just don't show up. I know like Colby Covington seemed like he didn't show up,
Not at all.
and there was a couple other. There's always those fights where it's just like Israel Adesanya when he fought Strickland. I was kind of like, what's happening?
It is weird. So so there was a female fighter named Taylor Starling, and she fought for the belt, and she got absolutely annihilated. But then I talked to her, and she said, I was just diagnosed with being bipolar like a week or two before that. And she's like, I had all this stuff, and it's a mental game. So I almost wonder if when they don't show up, if it's entirely something mental, because like the more I talk to these guys, the more it's all mental.
Well, and then it came out that Israel had gotten a DUI.
Yeah.
And so he has like this looming thing pending, which I mean, I've had a couple run-ins with the Popo, unfortunately, for some dumb shit mostly. And it's like, fuck, dude. It's so stressful because then you get arrested, they let you out, but then you got to go to court, and it's just like this looming nervousness and anxiety and stuff.
It is unfortunate, and like you said, it is crazy because like all it takes is one little, how many times, like, and I'm sure you too, like something that you got away with, you're like, holy shit, if I had gotten arrested for that, I mean, I would be looking at serious time, and it's just little simple things too, like it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, man. I could think there's times in my life I won't mention, but like in the Army, let's just say I smoked weed once when I was in the Army.
Allegedly.
Yeah. And I can't get into the details, but man, if that would have went the other way, like so many things in my life would be different. These like pivotal moments would have just changed the course of history type thing.
Can I ask how you got in the Army? Because you seem like the type of hippie guy in this book. You don't come across as somebody that I see joining the Army.
I actually killed it when I was in there, but it was kind of a desperation move. I was I had used all my college money that I had from my grandparents, gave me like $20,000 or whatever to go to college. That was gone. I had student loans. I was working at a job where I was making $12 an hour, and I had a daughter, and it was just like, I need to do something different. And it's the middle of the Iraqi war. And I had already tried to join like 5 years earlier, and they wouldn't let me in because of what you were just talking about. And there were some charges that had occurred and this type of thing. And they were like, yeah, no. But in 2006, they would take anyone with a pulse.
Yep.
I had to get a few waivers, but they let me in. It was so crazy because I had $13,000 in student loan debt. Mm-hmm. So that when I joined, they paid that off, which wasn't that much. Some people a lot. But then they also paid for my, you had to pick one or the other, either the GI Bill or we'll pay off your debt. So I pay off my debt. And then they passed the post 9/11 GI Bill, which meant I could go to school. So I went to school while I was in the Army. And then when I got out, while I was building SHEATH, I was using the post 9/11 GI Bill money to pay the bills. Okay. Got my master's degree. And the 2 months after I got my master's degree, SHEATH started making enough money where I could pay myself $1,500 a month. And, and then it just slowly grew from there. But yeah, it was just a desperation move. But it was actually extremely fun. The basic training, I got in there, I had seen Full Metal Jacket and Platoon. I had no idea that it was going to be easy, and so I assumed they were going to yell at me and call me a bitch or pussy or whatever, and they did. And they're not going to make it through. But other people would be crying, literally start crying and quit. Whereas for me, it pushed me to work harder. At the end of basic training, there was 66 people in the battalion, and I won the APFT, the Army Physical Fitness Test.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, against out of the 260 people, and so that's my little accolade, which is pretty
Congratulations. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank you for your service.
You're welcome. It was, and then I did 2 tours, and I had the idea for SHEATH on my second tour, and then I ended up getting out and pursuing this. But it was, I feel like everyone should go through like basic training, you know, because it really tests your steel and shows you you're capable of competing against your peers. I mean, I say that it made a man out of me, you know, so. But maybe it's not for everybody, but I thought that it was very beneficial.
Cool.
Yeah. But I'm assuming you did not quite go that route because you're doing other things.
No, so I actually I joined, I signed up when I was 17, but I was born with only 1 kidney. So when they found that out, like I had to get an appendix removed, and they discovered that I only had 1 kidney. So I was medically discharged. And so I attempted to, but it didn't work out. Yeah,
because they don't let everyone in. There is that one, and I had a broken femur where I have a titanium rod from when I was 19 doing dumb shit. I hit myself with my own car.
Oh, nice.
I was delivering a pizza, and I was walking with the pizza to the front door, and I heard my car start moving, and I turned around and my car's rolling towards their house. Oh. So I was, I had this split-second decision. I threw the pizza to the front door, and I ran to try to Superman stop the car, and that did not work. And it pinned me in between the house and the car, and then I woke up in an ambulance.
Wow, that's scary.
It was, but fun times, dumb shit. It's crazy how it all plays out, and that's why it makes me think, like, are we in a matrix? Is this even real?
Do you ever have deja vu? I feel like I have deja vu so much, and it's one of those things like I'm almost party, and like, okay, well, I know I'm going to succeed at this because I remember either dreaming about this or I remember doing it.
Yeah, it did. It like literally happened last night. I was talking to my wife, and she brought up something, and I was like, "This is so familiar," and it was like a deja vu type thing.
Yeah,
and I don't know what it all means. I had a dream like 2 nights ago where I was driving in a car, life is going on as usual, and a meteor struck, and I don't remember I remember like bits and pieces of the dream, but I realized that the earth kind of had got spun off its axis, and gravity changed, but everything just went dark.
Sure.
And I was like, okay, just wait 60 seconds and it'll all be over, or whatever, 10 seconds. And I just kind of accepted my fate, it's over. But it was just a dream.
I'm glad it was only a dream.
Yeah, it was kind of freaky. Well, and because we just watched this movie called The Day After. It was made in 1983, and it's about the day after a nuclear holocaust. And it's dark, dude. It was like one of those after school special type filmings, like when we were kids. Mm-hmm. And the production level was so 1980s after school special, but it was such a dark movie. And there's all these dark movies coming out now, kind of like the end of The Day After. There's some new one with Julia Roberts, and it's on Netflix, but shit's getting weird. People are building bunkers, and you know what I found, I don't know about you, but talking to all these fighters, the amount of conspiracy theorists that are in fight, I don't know, all the fighters I talk to, they're like, you gotta educate yourself, and I've yet to find one that's who doesn't believe in some kind of aliens or conspiracy theory, or what I mean? It's, I don't know what they train these guys to do, but yeah, it's crazy how that's the thing they believe in. That made me think of Eddie Bravo, and he's
100%.
the epitome of conspiracy theories. And Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like they're some of the most clear thinking
Sure.
humans because they get all the stress out and all that just bad energy through in during training, and then you're just centered. I feel like at least that's been my experience after I train sometimes. But it is a little odd. I think a lot of them smoke a lot of weed.
Yeah.
Which isn't a bad thing. But I actually smoke less weed now. But I'm getting older, and I feel good. I've been sleeping better, and life is pretty good. And I don't know what I was maybe trying to escape from, or at a different time. But it was just something we did. I don't know. Seems to have worked out. Wiz Khalifa says the more weed I smoke, the more money I make, in one of his lyrics. And I remember a lot of times smoking weed thinking that, and it was working. Like, we kept making more money. I was like, let me smoke more weed.
I think I've tried it twice in my life. Like, it's something, like, I came from a family of addicts though. So like I didn't start drinking until I was 24 because I was like, I need to know that I can like control myself. And like I said, and weed just never appealed to me. And like, I mean, like I said, and I know that I can have like a drink or two drinks and it's not a big deal. But like I said, it's one of those things, like, I don't want to test myself because I
think that's a good thing.
I don't need to. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like, oh, you can just smoke weed. No, actually, if you don't, that's good.
Sure.
If you're happy or whatever, like, why would you need to smoke weed?
A part of me wants to try like some of the edibles and stuff because I like pain, because like, holy cow, like, 43 now, like shoulder hurts and hip hurts. So, I mean, I'm interested in that aspect of it, but like the whole, like, just smoking to smoke, like, that doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah, I'm way less, because now it's so powerful, the weed, and I would find myself like 100 days out of the year. This is like let's say 2017 to 2021 or something, or before, anyways. I'd smoke in the morning, like 10 a.m. and then I'd get too high, and now I'm too high now. But I would still do what I had to do, but I'd probably need to take a nap or something, and then now it's like, you kind of have a lot of responsibility, and a lot of people count on me, not just our employees, but the sponsorship relationships. And I just feel like I have too much to be, focusing on, to just be getting like blazed all day.
So let me ask you this. So you sponsor people. Luckily enough, I've when I was doing stuff at the Gator farm, I had some people who make like bow fishing stuff, because that was one of the things I did, a lot of bow fishing, and I'd feed the carp to the alligators. Cool. But I would get people that would be like, hey, can you get me a sponsorship? But I would always tell people, like, I always bought the person's product before I even asked for a sponsorship or I had anything to do with it. And then the amount of people that are like, well, I know you, so you should get me this. Like, do you get a fair amount of people who actually wear Sheath, or they know that you are a generous guy and you sponsor some fighters and they just want you to hook them up?
It's mostly people who haven't tried us before, and which typically will be like, well, you don't even follow us. You haven't shared anything. We have no orders from you. And that a lot of times we'll be like, no.
Sure.
We won't say yes. Sometimes, depends on who it is, if it's somebody reputable, but mostly it's people just out of the blue, and they've never even tried our product. Kyle Nelson is a UFC fighter that we've been working with since 2014, where he actually supported our Kickstarter. Oh, wow. And so he supported, he bought first, and Absolutely. He had like 30 pairs, and it's 10 years later now, and he's in the UFC, just signed another contract, and we're still working with him. So I way prefer those. Absolutely. But yeah, it's kind of cringy when they're like, they haven't even tried the product, but they want us to sponsor them. Yeah. It's like, no thanks. Especially you better have something to offer us. if you're
It's a
gonna,
give take. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, win-win, and those are the obviously the best relationships. And I got see, part of my hesitation with the UFC was we've been working with all these fighters for years, which in all honesty, we couldn't really tell. It's like we sponsor this one fighter, we don't get like a huge push or like not that many codes. Even the cool thing about fighters is they are the kind of like apex predator of their gym, and people probably look up to them. So if we can sponsor fighters all over in different gyms, one would think maybe it would kind of cascade down to some of the lower level practitioners at those gyms and stuff. But when we went, so we work with all these agencies to sponsor fighters now, and we mostly work with agencies now. But a couple of them were telling me stories about how brands went to the UFC and it didn't work out, and like the UFC is greedy and they just take your money. I'll tell you what, they're not.
Yeah.
They're fucking really cool. It's actually very reasonably priced for what you get out of it. It's expensive, but you're getting worldwide, recognition.
So I have a one other UFC experience. So Manscaped, they sent me a product package and they said, "Hey, film something," and I filmed something for them, and they're like, "Holy shit, we love it!" They actually bought one of my videos outright because they liked it. So and I feel like I didn't hardly hear anything about Manscaped, and then they did the UFC, and now they're huge. So I'm super excited to see the success that you pull off of from the UFC.
Yeah, we actually are following their model. The guy I'm working with is, he's like, this is how they started. And then they saw a huge bump and we didn't see it right away. And I was really kind of nervous. But like I said, after 45 days, like this swell, it was like a slow burn, and it's still
working good now.
Yeah, it's still holding true. I mean, we just signed for 2024. We have 6 fight nights. We're doing the Contender Series and Tough, the Ultimate Fighter reality show.
Sure.
We might buy a pay-per-view, but those are really expensive. And so we just kind of went with what we knew we could kind of afford for now, with the option to buy a pay-per-view as, one might come up. But we were getting like pay. I feel like the agencies were trying to dissuade us from going with the UFC because they knew that the UFC would get that bulk of our budget.
Right.
And so it would kind of take away from some of the fighters. But from what it hasn't really yet. We're still sponsored. We just started sponsoring Sean Strickland.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
If you look at on his YouTube page, his last 2 videos will be sponsored by us. And then, of course, the press conference where he's like, "You are what did he say? You're what's wrong with this world." And I forget what he said exactly, but he's
a unique guy, that's for sure.
Yeah, we like controversy,
sure,
but we also are very inclusive of everyone, and whatever you want to do, and do you, baby boy, it's all good. So I'm torn between the things he said, and I don't want to hurt anyone. So so there's that. Just putting that out there, everyone. We're not. I didn't know he was going to say that. We started sponsoring him before he did, but also, like we've been reached out. Like Andrew Tate, we did not go forward with because of all he was in jail, or he had just gotten out for human trafficking and stuff.
Right.
Okay, well, Russell Brand, we were working with him.
Okay,
he had a sex scandal, and that kind of went a little. We got a couple of videos with him, and then he actually pulled away from us because he was in the middle of a sex scandal and didn't want to be sponsoring underwear because it was too close to home.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But we do sponsor a lot of controversial people, and it typically does well for us. Yeah. So I don't know.
you're a unique brand. I mean, I'm super glad that you're doing all this stuff with the UFC, but I'm not gonna lie, like part of me was hoping that I would see Sheath in the BKFC ring at one point, sponsoring the Ring Girls, and I know you guys just started doing something with Kai Stewart, and you've done stuff with Kamosi, and I believe like Luis Palomino, he's like the 2-division champ, and yeah. So I mean, I would, and I don't know like if there's much crossover room for that, but that's definitely something I was like like I said, I get super excited at UFC, but I was like I would have loved to see that logo in the BKFC ring.
It's never too late for that. We did have to pull back on a deal with the PFL because they want a similar amount of money that the UFC wanted, and I was like, yeah, it's not, you're not quite there yet, but they're very nice. They pitched us, and we're the fastest growing MMA league in the world. We just bought PFL, and then not PFL, Bellator, and
right.
And some of the Bellator fighters are going into PFL, and I know we're up on time.
Sure.
Like 2 more minutes, maybe.
Okay.
Who is Mike Perry fighting next?
So Mike Perry doesn't have a fight next. I do know where he's fighting, but I'm not allowed to say it.
Well, there was talk then. Maybe it was just hype, but like it was like Nate Diaz or something, but maybe that was.
He does not have an official fight yet, and they do have a big fight that's coming up in California, and there's an even bigger event that's going to go this summer, but everybody has to be hush lips about that. So.
Okay, well that's cool. You're in the know. That's pretty fun.
It's kind of like, it is crazy. Like I'm in the know. Like people reach out to me, hey, I got a fight coming up. It'll be 3 months in advance. No one knows, and keep it quiet, but let's do something beforehand, or maybe you could leak a little bit. Like I've had coaches and trainers say like, hey, leak this, and because we want to get this ball rolling. So yeah, it is kind of, I'm in the know now. It feels so, it's very interesting.
That's awesome. Very exciting. I really appreciate you taking the time to come on here. I would love to join you anytime,
for sure.
Because I actually enjoy being a guest far more than hosting, because it's about me. But a lot of times I make it about me here anyways.
Well, you're my first ever podcast I've done. I mean, like I said, I've done TV shows, but I've never done a podcast, and you're the first one. So I thank you for taking that from me.
Oh, you're very welcome. And it's my pleasure. So we'll be putting this out in a couple of days, and we'll stay in contact, and I wish you well with everything. Stay safe.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah. And anything else? Like, I know you're Gator 303.
Yeah, Gator Wrestler 303, Gator 303. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if you look up Gator 303, you'll find me. So,
yeah, and you got some cool stuff. You're out wrestling in a dinosaur.
Yeah, and the T-Rex stuff. Yeah, that T-Rex one is cool. Like E40 started following me. Waka Flocka started. Like DMX posted that video. Like that one had so many views, and then another company bought it out, so like I lost all those views, but then like it's starting to get views again. So.
Yeah, it's got 17 million views. Rest in peace, DMX.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone. We'll be back again soon. Brandon Roy Vol will be with me next time, and keep doing your things out there. Love you all. Peace.